Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Lanka, Assistant Professor of English, and here I am presenting a video to explain the topic the Renaissance from Social History of England. Here is a map of England in the olden days, and you can also see other parts of the European continent. So, to say a few words about the ancient people of England, um, historians have different opinions about the original inhabitants of England, and very little is known about them. But then, different opinions speak about a set of aborigines called the Picts, who are supposed to have been the first inhabitants of England in some also believe that the name Britain was derived from um, the Britons who inhabited England in the early days, and we also have the Celtic race and the West Germanic tribes, the Angles, Saxons, and the Jutes. So, based on the occupation of the Angles, it was known as Angla land, and it was known as England, and they believe that the name England has been derived in this manner. To say a few words about the Renaissance, it was a period in Europe between the Middle Ages and the modern era. It is usually considered to include the 15th and the 16th centuries, though historians have different opinions among themselves. And the Renaissance um, was marked by a renewed interest in the culture of the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans. Renaissance started in Italy and then it spread out across Europe and brought about many changes in the culture and the interests of the people in the European continent. So, Constantinople, the capital of the Roman Empire, was captured by the Turks in 1453, which resulted in the exodus of many Greek scholars to Europe. They traveled to different parts of Europe, and in Italy they were received with open hands. And Florence in Italy it became the center of this intellectual revival. A Renaissance saw an earnest beginning in classical scholarship. So, many new trade routes were found or discovered during this age, and we'll see about that in detail in the forthcoming slide. The word Renaissance has been borrowed from the French language, it means rebirth, and this period is best known for the revival or renewed interest in the culture of ancient Greece and ancient Rome. And this revival led to intellectual and artistic rebirth of classical antiquity. Renaissance can also be defined as a revival of interest in classical art and architecture. So, to see about the important developments during the time of Renaissance, first we'll look into the different inventions and major discoveries of the age. A Renaissance was a many sided movement, and many important inventions were made during this period. The most important invention of this time is considered to be the invention of the printing press. Printing was introduced by Gutenberg of Germany. And the first printing press in England was established by William Caxton in 1476. The major impact of the printing press was that books were printed in large numbers and so they became cheaper. People more people were able to buy the books and gained more knowledge. So this knowledge, which had previously been restricted to the walls of the ministries, spread everywhere and thus led to the questioning attitude among the people. The next important invention was the mariner's compass, and the invention of this led to the sailors being able to undertake longer voyages, which they had been unable to do so till then. They had been sailing only till the shoreline was visible. But after this invention, they were able to explore distant seas, and thus they came to realize that the knowledge that they had till then about the shape of the world and size were completely false. The invention of the mariner's compass led to Columbus being able to discover the American continent in 1492. Vasco da Gama reached Calicut in India through the Cape of Good Hope in 1498. The telescope, another important invention a century later, led to the beginning of the science of astronomy. So people uh, came to realize the true position of the Earth in the solar system due to the discoveries of Copernicus, Kepler, and Galileo. In England, Renaissance was heralded by Geoffrey Chaucer, the father of English literature. And the contributions also came from three Oxford friends, Thomas Linacre, William Grocyn, and Hugh Latimer. So, the first school in England, St. Paul's Grammar School, was established by John Colet, and this school was dedicated to the study of classical literature. Overall, gradually 63 schools were founded during the reign of Henry VIII, 50 in the time of Edward VI, 19 in the time of Mary, and 138 in the time of Queen Elizabeth I. Renaissance is not only an age of inventions but also an age of translation. So, great writers like Virgil, Ovid, Cicero, Demosthenes, and Plutarch, their works were all translated into English. The first part of Chapman's Homer um, uh, appeared in 1598 in English, and this enabled the people who didn't know Latin or Greek to be to read classical literature. And, especially people like Shakespeare, who knew very little Greek and less Latin, were able to become familiar with classical mythology. So, Renaissance literature in England, we see Sir Thomas More coming out with his famous work Utopia, which meant nowhere in Greek. And the first great English epic, Fairy Queen by Edmund Spenser, was published, and he is known as the representative poet of the English Renaissance. And of course, William Shakespeare, in whom we find the full expression of English Renaissance. And other important names of the period are Ben Jonson, Francis Bacon, and Christopher Marlowe, the father of English tragedy. The famous names associated with Renaissance in arts and literature are Michelangelo, Raphael, and Leonardo da Vinci. And as soon as their names are mentioned, the works that come to our mind are Last Judgment, Madonna, and Last Supper. Architecture underwent a classical revival as well throughout Europe. So the Gothic style was replaced by Roman and Greek styles. St. Peter's Basilica in Rome is the greatest example of the new classical style. And then in the 17th century, Inigo Jones and Christopher Wren followed the new style to reconstruct St. Paul's Cathedral in London after the Great Fire of London in 1666. So, this is the brief explanation that I have given to Renaissance. I hope you understood, and I am thankful for all the references that I was able to find on the internet. And I hope you understood the topic, which I have tried to give a clear sketch of. And thank you for your kind listening. I will meet you in the next video.